it is now time for me to see if I can remember everything that I read last month and tell you about it. It is time for my April wrap up. So I have Goodreads pulled up so that I can even remember what books I read last month, because it was a lot. In this moment, I can't remember, but I want to say it was 13. I also have not pulled up my stats yet, but future me will do that, and here they are. Pages I read, average rating, all of that good stuff. I read What Stalks the Deep, which is the third book in the Sworn Soldiers series. I gave the first book 5 stars, and I think I gave the second book 4 stars. I did enjoy the first book the best. I will say I think this one kind of falls between those, so maybe like a 4.5, which I'll round to 5 stars for Goodreads. I enjoyed the claustrophobia kind of aspect to this one. It feels a little bit claustrophobic, which Alex is not. In this one, they have gone to America. They meet back up with one of the characters from the first book. I can't remember their name. Their cousin, I think it was, went to go explore this mine that he inherited, and all of a sudden he got a weird message from him, and then he stopped hearing from him at all. And so they are going to go to the mine and see if they can discover what happened to this character. There is this idea of kind of like this prehistoric primordial being, I guess is the best way to describe it. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but I did enjoy that aspect of it. It wasn't a perfect book, I don't think, but the vibes were vibing. It was good. There were some things that I feel like it kind of rushed a little bit. For example, like what happened to the cousin, it kind of like brushed over that aspect of it a little bit, I felt like. But these are novellas, and so I do think that it is hard sometimes to really get a satisfying ending to all of the aspects of a story when you're doing something like this. So like I said, I did like it better than the second, but not quite as good as the first one. So far, the first one is the best in my opinion. Next up, I read NYPD Puzzle, which is a puzzle lady mystery. I had picked one of these up from the library before, but I never did get to it. And for some reason, I thought that this was the first book. It is not. It is number 15. And I think there's only like 18 books in the series. And so it's one of the last ones. And it actually ended up spoiling the first one. So when I do get the first one, I'm going to have to wait a long time so that I maybe won't recognize the name. Although probably I know that I have forgotten the name. So there's a good chance I wouldn't recognize the name when it popped up. But I gave this one 3 stars. The mystery itself is just okay. The premise is that there is this woman that creates puzzles for a newspaper or something. I don't know. She's the puzzle lady. Now, Sudoku puzzles, she can create and solve very well. There is a little secret, so this may be a spoiler. I don't know if it's a secret throughout the series or not, that she actually cannot create or solve the crossword puzzles, and this one had a lot of crossword puzzles in it. And the fun thing about this series, the gimmick with this series, is that there are puzzles that you as the reader solve, and it gives you little clues to solving the crime in general. I did in fact solve all of the puzzles. Sometimes I used Google, can't lie. But I did find that as I was doing the crossword puzzles, I was getting better, because the thing with crossword puzzles is that it uses a lot of plays on words and things like that for the clues. But anyways, I had fun solving the puzzles. That really was a fun aspect to it. The characters are not super well developed in my opinion. It was kind of one of those things too where it stopped using the like tags on sentences. There's a word for that, I think, but I forget. But where it puts who's talking. It didn't do that, and it didn't do that for large blocks of dialogue, and so you would get it mixed up, like who was talking, and that kind of thing makes a book feel immaturish, in my opinion. Anyways, moving on, I also read Nobody's Baby, which is the second book in the Dorothy Gentleman cozy mystery series. This is the one that it is like a sci-fi cozy mystery series, so it's set on a spaceship in space. They're like, they live on this spaceship, but the thing is that nobody is supposed to be able to get pregnant, because obviously then you would have issues with the population on the spaceship. But they find a baby, and so Dorothy is going to find out how the baby got there, who the baby belongs to, that sort of thing. Again, the mystery in this one is just okay. I felt the same way about the first one. It can be a little bit confusing, but as you read through and you kind of familiarize yourself with how the way that the world works, it makes a little bit more sense. Like the fact that you can back up like your brain, basically like your memories, your experiences, things like that. They keep a library of that kind of stuff, and that was something in the first one, because somebody got murdered, but then they also destroyed their book that kept like their consciousness or whatever, and so that person is like dead, they can't come back. If you've backed up your consciousness or whatever, your brain, your self can be put back into a body that is like created. So that was like a whole thing in the first one. In this one, the person that had the baby, they stopped backing up their memories after they got pregnant. And so therefore, when something happened to them and they were like reborn or whatever, they didn't even remember that they had had a baby. So like I said, it was a decent book, just kind of light on the mystery. If you're interested in like a sci-fi cozy mystery, this is a good series, and it's novellas, so they're very short reads. I also read The Nanny's Handbook to Magic and Managing Difficult Dukes. I can never remember that full title. But this is the first book in the Parasol Academy series, and I actually have an arc for the second one. I saw the premise of the second one, and I actually talked about it in one of my monthly new release videos, and so that kind of put me on put this series on the radar, and we actually picked this book for our April book month pick. We draw a book every month, and I was kind of the odd man out, because I thought that this was such a fun book. It was very ridiculous and funny. It's kind of like a cross between Mary Poppins and Bridgerton is what it says. I've never seen or read Bridgerton, so I don't know about that aspect of it, but it kind of was fun to get like Mary Poppins vibes. Like, what if there was a school where they taught nannies that were like Mary Poppins, that had like magic, and they knew like martial arts and stuff like that. So I thought it was really fun. I gave it 5 stars. It was definitely a vibes book, obviously. The woman has just graduated. She's trying to get the money to get her father out of debtor's prison. She kind of stumbles into this Duke. He is kind of taken with her to begin with. He can also appreciate her ideas on the best way to handle children and things like that. And he's had a very hard time keeping a nanny. They're not his children. They're actually his niece and nephews, but she ends up going to be their nanny, and there are things that are going on, like somebody is trying to sabotage him. He is trying to finish these plans for this clock. It turns out that it's a competition to create a clock that ends up being Big Ben in real life. And so that part was kind of fun. So yeah, they end up figuring out who it is that's doing all of the things. And at the end, they fall in love and they get together. So I thought it was a cute little romance. So those are all of the books that I read that were not tied to a video of some sort. So I also did the Magical Readathon, and I combined my Roll for TBR game with my Magical Readathon TBR, and ended up vlogging all of these books that I read, so you can check those out. So first up, for the Magical Readathon, I reread Dungeon Crawler Carl and Carl's Doomsday Scenario. Dungeon Crawler Carl is this series where Earth has been invaded by what's called the Syndicate, which is like an alien government system. And what they do is they invade planets and they mine the planet for resources. And the humans on that planet are given a chance to earn their planet back by competing in what's basically a game show. And in Dungeon Crawler Carl, Borant is the group that's responsible for the game, and they decide to do a world dungeon. And so when the invasion happens, everything is kind of sucked down into Earth, and the material is used to create this multi-level dungeon. And if someone can make it to the 18th floor, which has never happened before, but if they do make it to the 18th level, then they can earn control of their planet back. Book 1 is floors 1 and 2, and there's a lot of technical, more video game type content because it's explaining how the dungeon works and how spells and mana and stats and all of that work. And then as you go on, it becomes more focused on this storyline and developing these characters and their fight for survival more so than how the dungeon and everything works. Book 2 is the 3rd floor, and the 3rd, 6th, 9th, 12th, and 15th and 18th floors all have this like interconnected storyline. Basically, it's like this city that was inside a volcano, and like bad things happen there. So it's like a city surrounding, there's like this evil undead circus type thing. They're trying to figure out what's killing a bunch of hookers. That's a quest that they get drug into, and it all kind of is interconnected. These were both 5 stars. Another book that I did a reread of last month was The Shadow Rising. This is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. Again, I explained this one in the vlog, but without getting too much into spoilers, in this one, your characters are once again spread out into different places. Some of the characters go to Ruidon, which is a city in the waste where this group of people called the Aiel live, and they are going to go to Ruidon, which is where the chiefs and the wise ones go to, I guess, kind of be tested to see if they can be chiefs and wise ones. Meanwhile, you have 2 other characters that are going to a place called Tanchico. They are looking for the Black Aja, which is the Aes Sedai that have become dark friends. And then the last person that's like part of our main core cast of characters goes back to the 2 rivers where they're from, because the White Cloaks, which are basically like a religious order but also a military order at the same time, they are going to the 2 rivers, not really for good reasons, but one of the characters will go back and help to defend his village against Trollocs, which are monsters that are attacking, and then also the White Cloaks, who are basically hunting for our core cast of characters. And that is book 4, basically, in a nutshell. Next up, I read Sword Heart, and I loved this one. Your main character, Hala, has inherited her uncle's fortune, house, everything. It was actually her deceased husband's uncle. So her deceased husband's cousin and that cousin's mom are trying to marry her off to the cousin so that they can get the money in the house and all of that good stuff. And she does not want to do that. And they've locked her in her room at the beginning of this book, and she's trying to figure out a way to herself so that she doesn't have to worry about them, which is kind of a wild thing to jump to. But she thinks that they're going to do it, or she could just do it herself and get it over with. So anyways, she decides to take down this sword and to use that, and when she unsheaths it, this man comes out of the sword. So Sarkis is a warrior that has been bonded to this sword so that whenever somebody draws it, he is bound to serve and protect the wielder of the sword. And so he escorts her to this temple where they, I guess, specialize in law. They send someone back with Hala and Sarkis to help her in her situation. Are a lot of hijinks that occur on the road between these two places. There is some betrayal that happens between these two places. The way that it leaves off, there were 3 people that were attached to swords, and I think that this is going to be a trilogy. So I'm assuming that each person that was turned into a sword is going to be the main focus of each book. But at the end of this, the 2 main characters heard that one of the other swords was found. And so I think that maybe main characters from this book will still be in that book. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. For that vlog, I also read Tomb of the Sun King. This was one of my Roll for TBR books. I had to listen to a Romantasy audiobook, and my hold for this audiobook came in on Libby. So this is the second book in the Raiders of the Arcana series. In the first one, Ellie finds a map that leads her to a magical city, and she learns that there are these like magical artifacts. There is this group of people that are going around trying to find those artifacts. And in the second book, they are looking for the staff of Moses. Her brother runs a dig in Egypt, and they discover that the people are going to his dig because they think that where he is digging there is a clue to finding the staff of Moses. So her and Adam, the male main character from the first book, the 2 of them are together but not quite together. They go to Egypt to try to warn her brother, but the people are there by the time they get there. So they are running from the bad guys. They're trying to find the magical artifact. They're looking for this hidden tomb. So it was a really good time. I love the relationship of Ellie and Adam. Her best friend Constance is also in this one, and Constance and Neil, her brother, kind of have this thing going on. You can tell that they both like each other, but they don't like say or do anything towards each other yet. But it will be interesting to watch that relationship develop as well. And I gave this one 5 stars. This might actually be my favorite book of the year that I've read so far, not including rereads, of course. Okay, in that same vlog, I also read the Saturday Night Ghost Club, which was kind of like this coming of age story. This man is retelling a summer when he was 12 years old, and during that summer he had a ghost club with his uncle's best friend, a boy that had moved to town, and that boy's older sister, and they kind of go explore these places that are supposedly haunted. I gave this one 3 stars. Really, it was probably about a 2.5. But I gave it 3 stars because it wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Because it was, I guess, comped as supposedly like Stranger Things, and it was not. Yes, it was set in the 80s, but there was absolutely no like background that was really and truly giving you 80s vibes, other than the fact that the uncle's best friend ran a Betamax store. The other issue that I had with this book was there wasn't anything really supernatural about it. It was very much just this thing that happened that the boy finds out about, kind of like a family secret, and it explained everything that they did. There were parts of it, like the little scene where they're at the junkyard or whatever, that just, it felt like it was trying to feel like Stephen King's It, which is kind of a coming of age story as well. But obviously there was something supernatural going on in that book. And so, I don't know, it just didn't land for me. The other book that I read during that vlog was Murder by Cheesecake, which was the Golden Girls cozy mystery. It was the mystery ebook that I needed for my role for TBR. And I gave that one 3 stars as well. The mystery itself was just, it was very simple. The mystery on its own would not have stood up, but I really did enjoy the fact that it was the Golden Girls. It had them solving a mystery. Rose's niece is getting married, and so it taught a lot about like St. Olaf traditions and stuff. So it had like Rose's quirkiness kind of going on. Dorothy was supposed to go to the wedding with the victim that was murdered, and so she is like the prime suspect, and they are trying to clear her. And so you have the 4 of them searching for clues, but at the same time Rose is trying to put on this weird St. Olaf wedding. And so that part was really fun, but I hope that as the series goes on, the mystery part will kind of get more developed and be a stronger part, because I enjoy cozy mysteries where the mystery part is very solid. And hopefully future books, because I would like to continue in the series. I think it was a good time. Hopefully the mystery in the future books will be a little bit more solid. And then finally, the last book is Bunny. Alana and I did a buddy read of Bunny, and we did like a video collaboration. So I have a vlog, she has a vlog. Mine is a full spoiler review, but I do warn you when what I'm about to say is a spoiler for the book, so you could just mute it if you wanted to watch it. In this one, your main character is in an MFA program in college. She is a writer. She is part of a cohort where all of the other girls are in this friend group, but it's very weird. They call each other Bunny, and they're just very over the top friendly to each other. And she ends up getting invited to hang out with them and ends up getting sucked into their friend group. And there is kind of this supernatural element to it, possibly, because one of the things is that she very much could have just imagined this entire thing. It feels like a fever dream. At first, I did not really enjoy it. I felt like it was just a little bit boring, and it was just kind of weird, but that weirdness quickly drew me in, and it became a 5-star book pretty quickly. It was a very fast read. Like, this is one that you could sit down and read in one sitting. I think I ended up really enjoying this one. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that is all of the books that I read during the month of April. I so far have read 2 books in the month of May, so I've got to pick it up if I'm going to read as many books this month as I read last month. But that is it for this video. Hopefully I will see you in another one soon. Bye guys.